Amen. You may be seated. Thank you, band. You may not know this about me, but I, on occasion, get compliments about my sermons. Maybe not you specifically. You may leave go, oh, that was a train wreck. But I do, on occasion, get compliments. Great, beautiful compliments. Some say they're the best compliments. And I was talking to a young lady on the phone one day, and I was just doing the this and that's about a first-time guest and, how to go for you. What was it like? Just trying to get some information from a visitor who never returned. And believe it or not, that's super insightful information if I can get my hands on it. And she goes, I go, so how'd you like it? What was the experience? She goes, oh, I loved it. You didn't talk about money. And I thought, oh, okay. That's a very low bar to get over. I got you. Okay. And I scribbled a little note to myself, you idiot, you forgot to talk about money. So here I am, just throwing away that surefire, compliment. It's always in the chamber. We're talking about money today, guys. I did it. I'm ruining my reputation. And we're doing a series called For the Love of Money. And I thought it was a funny saying, so I'm going to start using it. And Dallas is singing something right now. I don't really know what he's doing here. But here's the deal. We find ourselves in a moment where it's actually kind of important to talk about some money. Not because our church is sweating a light bill. By the grace of God and your generosity, we're fine. Sometimes churches do get a spot where they got to say, hey, look, we're sweating a light bill. We got to talk about some things here. But gratefully, we're not there. We're in a time where just money is tighter. It's tighter than it has been the last several years, and it's important to sometimes just kind of say, hey, let's raise the alarm. Hey, did you notice it's a certain amount of money is not going as far as it used to go a year ago or 2 years ago, and there's also a reason rhythmically for Christians to talk about money, because as Christians we have a Christian view of money. We have a viewpoint when it comes to money that is nice and helpful to remind ourselves every once in a while. But right now, one of the main reasons we should be talking about it is because we're in a strenuous economic time. Some things are just more expensive. We're kind of going, why? What's happening out there? And it's an interesting thing. I was talking to one of our elders, Steve, and I said, look, I can't believe the price of whatever just happened, because I get these text messages whenever Megan goes to the grocery store. I go, wow, I can't believe that's how much it's going to cost for us to eat this week. And then she does the same thing 2 days later. I go, oh wow, we didn't even have a whole week's worth of groceries. That's impressive. Okay, yikes. All right, and so it's time we pull out the dusty old budget, so we just look at it again. What holds true? What doesn't hold water anymore? What's changed? Is it still leading us the direction we want to go? Because we are at a time where things are just different right now. And so for the love of money, can we just talk about it for a minute? And so that's what we're going to do. And here's where I want us to start. I want us to start this idea where we should not follow fools. No one else is going to be wise on our behalf. That's left to us to figure out on our own. And I don't know if you've seen this video. It's kind of making its rounds, and who knows how old the video actually is. But it's a man whose son came to him and said, Dad, what group of people am I talking about? The NBA or NFL? And he starts talking about people who can't drive because they have DUIs, and the number of people who bankrupted businesses, the number of people who can't get a credit card because of their name and their credit line, all that sort of stuff. And he turns around and says, actually, it's neither, it's the Congress. And you go, wow, okay. There are people who can't get their own credit card and yet vote whether or not to raise the debt ceiling. And you go, okay, interesting. That's someone you know what I mean? You're going, okay, who's going to be wise on our behalf? If not the government, you know what I mean? And have you ever seen this, rhetorical jiu-jitsu where some politicians being asked about raising taxes or a spending plan or something like that, and you go, we're not raising taxes, we're investing in the future. You go, wow, that's a nice move right there. But for all I know, you can't get your own credit card. So I don't know if I want you investing on my behalf. And we get stuck here, and we kind of go, we can't just rest on our laurels and kind of go, all right, someone else is going to make sure it's all going to work out all right? And that's not a guarantee ever. And when the Bible talks about wisdom, it talks about you pursuing wisdom and me pursuing wisdom and we looking good and hard at what we've got to do in what we have under our management and under our control and say, how can I best invest and most wisely move forward with my finances? And the argument I'm going to make is that if we're going to be wise with our finances, we will need a biblical and Christian view of our finances. And that's where the question comes up. Because you're going to sit here and you're going to go, all right, Garrett, I don't know why. Why can't we just talk about wisdom? Why do you have to always bring Jesus into everything? Why can't you just say, what's the wise view of this? And I'll use this example as a snippet of the book of Proverbs. The other book, the Bible's over to Proverbs chapter 6. And if you have, and I'm going to use this as an example of why we can't just rest on wisdom. Because wisdom's a great thing. A lot of our Christian life comes down to living the wise way and choosing the wise way to live. But as the Bible will ultimately point out to us, that we humans need something a little deeper than just wisdom to make it through. Our faith is not actually built on wisdom. Our faith is built on Jesus, on His grace. And so here's what Proverbs says, chapter 6. It says, allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids, for free yourself like a gazelle from the hand of a hunter, or a bird from the snare of the fowler. Go to the ant, you sluggard, and consider its ways, and be wise. It has no commander, has no overseer or ruler, and yet it stores provisions in the summer and gathers its food at harvest. And so that's wisdom. That's biblical. It's a part of Scripture called wisdom literature. And that's a moment where it's very blunt, the wisdom literature is. It's very straightforward. You did something stupid, you should go get yourself out of that because that's going to have some big problems for you. Dummy, you shouldn't have done that. And that's wisdom, right? And it's actually really helpful. It's really helpful to hear because, listen, you really shouldn't. You really shouldn't just give into momentary lapses of judgment right here that lead to long-term pain. Rather, we should go to the ant. Look at his advice. What does he do? He does the exact opposite. He takes momentary wisdom and it leads to long-term pleasure. Right? He instead of spending everything he has right now, while it's in summer, while the getting is good, he stores food when the harvest is going. And when the winter comes, he still has food to spare. Right? And here's one of the facts of life that we just all have to just wrap our heads around. The getting will not always be good. We will not always be on an economic upturn. We will not always be flush with cash. We will not always be in the best, most wonderful season of earning in our lives. That goes up and down like this. Sometimes your business really kicks off for a season. And sometimes it's just, it's like you're plowing a field every day. And money has this ability to convince us, or it has this ability to cause us to forget this fact. And I remember being married for like 3 years. And you're like, wow, we've already, in this short time of being married, gone through seasons of, we got plenty of money too. Wow, let's tighten our belts. We got plenty of money. And it's it can happen quickly. And you have to be prepared for it. Go to the ant. Now, money has such an interesting power that it can convince us that this is a novel idea. Something so simple as this could be like a brand new, wow, I never heard of that before. And you might be going, Garrett, yeah, we're all thinking the same thing. But Dave Ramsey has made millions upon millions of dollars in his career. He has a radio show where he talks for hours, 5 days a week. He has a business that helps people get their finances in order. He has a speaking tour going from church to church to church. And you know what his message is? Don't spend more money than you got. That's it. And people are going, I'm going to pay him some more money. This guy's amazing. Why didn't I think of that? And when you're not in the room, you're kind of going, yeah, Dave, I think we could have all thought of that ourselves. But then he's going, then why didn't you? If you can't see the little green things, don't spend the little green things. That's why it's all about the cash is king. If you don't got it, don't spend it. And yet, we can all forget that when we start going, well, I kind of want that shirt, I kind of want that thing, I kind of want to go eat out this place, and you kind of go, wow, you kind of forget those in these momentary lapses of judgment where we forget, I got to be thinking down the road as well. And it's fascinating that our passage here, it says, go to the ant, sluggard. Yeah, that's, the Proverbs are very blunt. They don't, pull punches. And I've been, he's talking to a lazy guy, lazy bones, you know what I mean? Like, come on, what are you doing? And I've been called lazy plenty of my life, not a huge fan of it. But the sluggard is one of the primary characters of the book of Proverbs. It pops up all the time. And the image of what the sluggard is like is kind of a shocking one, right? He's a guy who, he says the sluggard will put his hand in his dish and then he's too lazy to even pick it up and eat his food. He just kind of, his hand lands on the table and doesn't come back up, right? The sluggard's a guy that's going, oh, there's a lion outside. I can't go out there. It's too dangerous. I got to stay inside where it's safe. I can't brave the elements. I got to sit, the safety first. And the sluggard just kind of comes up with excuses for why he can't do stuff. In chapter 24, King Solomon talks about a time where he walked by the field of a sluggard. And he says this, I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who has no sense. And there were certain character traits that he saw. He said, thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds, and the stone was in ruins. The stone wall was in ruins. And he says, and so when he says, go to the ant, sluggard, he's talking to this kind of guy who, even if he has the skill set, even if he has the ability to build a vineyard and build a brick wall and build all these things and get up together, he just kind of let it go into decay. He's saying, keep your eyes open. Don't fall asleep at the wheel when we're talking about debt or we're talking about our budget, when we're talking about our finances. Don't just set it and forget it. When I was a kid, there's a commercial on all the time about this rotisserie chicken cooker. You just set it and forget it. And you know what I mean? That doesn't last long when your finances are changing all around us. And we got to think about it. And he's going, listen, don't let thorns come up and start ripping away your income. Don't let debt come in unnoticed and start ruining the foundation of your finances. You got to think about these things. Don't fall asleep at the wheel. Go to the ant. And I was talking to Darren about this, and Darren said that, wow, twice in 5 minutes. Are you kidding me? I thought the last one was the one for the sermon. Darren was talking about, we were talking about this, and he's like, yeah, I just got one of those apps where it kind of finds all those subscriptions you have. They're just kind of hidden out there in the interwebs, and you can stop all of them at a moment. And he started getting all these emails there, and the people were like, hey, Darren, we couldn't charge you the $5 this month. Don't you care? And he's like, no, I don't care. That's a wonderful feeling. I don't know. They expect you to feel sorry about that. You know what I mean? They're like, don't you care about me? No, I don't. And I loved it because I thought it was such a fantastic thing to do, because he's like, we're not just going to find all of our little subscriptions and things that are out there. We're going to just stop all of them and then voluntarily open back up the ones we need and the ones we want. And it's a great follow-up question. We don't just stop at, where is all my money going? We also ask the follow-up question, what do I want my money going to? What would I, if I could just start from scratch today, what would I be sending my money to? And it's a wise way to live. Go to the ant sluggard. See how he stores when the beginning's good. So that when the beginning's no longer good, he still has food. Boom. Wisdom. Right? That's wisdom. It's wise. And you should follow that advice. The problem is, and this is why I say we need a Christian view of money. And the problem is, almost every one of us in this room can look at that advice. From the most financially successful to those of us who have thorns and thistles coming into our budget. We can look at it and say, yeah, that's obviously the case. Of course that's the best way to operate. And oftentimes we convince ourselves that we don't need to follow it. We don't need to do it. And many of us don't. And that's why wisdom, as great as it is, isn't enough for us to build our lives on. We need something different. We need Jesus to come and shape our worldview, to shape the way we think about the world, and shape, since we're talking about money, to shape the way we think about money. Jesus says this. He says, no one can serve two masters. You'll either hate one or love the other. You'll be devoted to one or despise the other. But you cannot serve both God and money. It's a fascinating little way he ended that passage, because what he's talking about is just idolatry in general. Anything on earth could have fit into that sentence right there, right? Anything could have gone right there. He could have just said, you can't worship both God and worldly things, or anything like that. But he found a reason to specifically land on money there. And in fact, what he really said was, you can't serve both God and mammon. Mammon is one of those weird words that we don't use anymore, so our translations don't have it, but it's like the personification of money. It's as if all our cash is kind of animated and became this big hulking monster going, come with me, I'll show you the way to have fun. And and Jesus is like, look, me and that guy were walking in two different directions. And you're going to have to choose which one you're going to follow, because we're not going to be at the same destination. Which way are you going to go? What down the road thing do you want to be a part of? Now, my cousin Josh, who's passed away several years ago, but he was part of a batch of cousins that got to spend a lot of time with my grandpa. My grandpa passed away when I was 7, and I have fond memories of it. I never drove with him and that sort of stuff, and Josh got all these sorts of experiences, and so he's about 12 years older than me. And one day, he was living with us for a time, and I had my permit, and I was driving, and he criticized my driving with a saying from Grandpa that I'd never heard, and I didn't understand what he was saying. He said went something like this: Garrett, are you looking at the road, or are you looking down the road? Are you looking at the hood, or are you looking at the horizon? And I had no idea what he was talking about. He goes, yeah, Grandpa used to say that to me all the time. What it means is, if you're looking right here while you're driving, then everything is a surprise to you. You have to react all the time. Every pothole, every bend in the road is a surprise, and it's a reaction. But if you're looking down the road, you can plan. And we have to ask ourselves, where do we want to go? And when we live our lives, what do we want to be able to accomplish at the end of it? And Jesus goes, look, I'm walking down one road, and mammon and money is going to take you down another. And he reminds us that money is a nice thing to have, but it is a terrible master. Did you know that the Bible's view of money is incredibly nuanced? I don't think most of us will operate thinking that the Bible has a nuanced view of money. But here's how the Bible starts. In the book of Genesis, God creates the heavens and the earth. He created everything. And it was created by Him. And it was built on Him. And He was at the center of it. And if you look at how the Bible kind of builds the narrative of the Garden of Eden, the way it uses words, it talks in terminology of like a temple. The world is God's temple, and He's in the middle of it. It all revolves around Him. It all worships Him. And even in the garden, He would walk in the cool of day with Adam and Eve, and their human relationships would be centered on Him, and our work would be centered on Him. It'd be joining Him in creation. And God said, Adam, go name the animals, right? And the work was centered on and joining in with God, and it was kind of all there. And when you were in the garden, you could say, what does man need? He needs God. What does my family need? I need God. What does my work need? God. What is it all centered on? What's the point of it all? God. It's built on God. And then sin came into the world and broke that perfect formula. It broke that pattern. And then we turned around and we built this world on 1,000 things other than God. Success. Building a name for ourselves. Pleasure. Chasing momentary gratitude. And most notably, I would suggest, we built it on money. You simply can't live in this world without some of it. And the question is, how did God react to that? How did God react to the news that the newspaper, the Heaven Daily, humans built the world on money, not you? How did he react? Did he bury his head in the sand? plug his ears low. I don't hear you. If you're going to follow me, you're going to have to reject everything. Just give it all away and then just be me and you. No, he actually, Jesus says this in the Sermon on the Mount. He comes to terms and he understands that this world has been built on money. He says this. So in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, so don't worry, he's saying, what shall I eat? What shall I drink? What shall I wear? For the pagans run after these things. And your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first the kingdom of heaven. And so Jesus is sitting there saying, listen, your Father in heaven understands. He understands you're going to have financial needs. He understands you need to have a car. He understands you need to dress yourself. He understands you need to feed yourself. He understands you have to pay the mortgage. He understands that you need these things. And it's always been so fascinating to me that the hard words he uses there. He knows that you need them. He doesn't say he agrees with you, it'd be nice to have it. He doesn't say, I know you want it. No, he says, I know you need it. I understand how this world works. I'm not an idiot. But you need to understand at a deeper level, a truer level, at a real level, this world is still really built on me. And the Christian should learn to seek first the kingdom of heaven before seeking any number of things. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. And the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. And as we do, we can find ourselves interacting with our finances. And we can say things like, well, who cares what the Joneses are doing? Who cares if somebody just got a new car? Who cares if I don't have the nicest house on the block? My family's surviving, my family's taken care of, we got the basic necessities, and more than that. And we can enjoy what money we do have. We can use it to bless our families and bless others and give God glory and give our kids little treats when we have the opportunity to. And we can do it without worshiping it. And Christians, as we follow God into this world, and we have these two truths in tandem that we just kind of understand as we try to interact with our money. And on the one hand, we understand that money is something that's kind of here today and gone tomorrow. That one day it's just going to be stripped from us and we're going to be gone. And Timothy says, I brought nothing into the world and we can take nothing out of the world. It's not mine to hold on to forever. It's just for this time. And yet on the other hand, Proverbs tells us a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And so we have this idea that money is not a God, and it's not this thing that's going to make my life complete. It's not going to be this thing that satisfies me at the deepest heart level, but it's also something that I have that I should manage well. I should have the foresight, the desire to say, okay, here's what I have for the amount of time I have it. How can I be generous now and also plan for the future? And just let me be my money's master and not my money be my master. And then we can start, and once we get this Christian view of money, we can do what the wisdom literature tells us. Go to the end. Be wise with your money. Because as Jesus shapes our hearts and our lives, it changes how we interact with and view and operate in the world around us. So it frees us from those momentary temptations to say, well, I just have to have it. I need it. This is a weird side story, but when I was in Ecuador, one of the words that I had a really hard time figuring out how to use was lo, L-O, in Ecuador. In Spanish, I didn't know. And then I was shopping with one of the ladies as part of our church, and she saw something. She goes, oh, yo lo necesito. And I thought, oh, that's how you use that word. No, love. Okay, interesting. Everyone, girl, we all live in a world where we think, I need to have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. And Jesus can set us free from that. And you say, listen, you'll put your heart back in my hands and remind yourself that I'm the center of this world and not anything that your money can buy. And you are free to operate with it to the best of your abilities. Enjoy it. Be wise with it. Give some of it. Save some of it. And seek first the kingdom of heaven.